Welcome to the So I'm a Fan of podcast, where people from different fandoms come together to share why they love what they love,
and sometimes hate what they hate.
I'm your host, Kaiser Brown, and today I'm joined by
Sabrina Gil, the newest and best co-host that ever was, and...
Okay, wait, hold up. Calm down, slow down.
It's my time. And it's time for the So I'm a Fan of podcast's biggest event yet, the Animation Takeover.
Oh, okay, and today we're going to be discussing
Arcane League of Legends!
Okay, that's enough. Let's just get started. Cue the episode now.
Wait.
Now! Hey, Sabrina.
Hi, Kaiser.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. Living my best life.
Oh, okay. So we're going to be talking about Arcane League of Legends. Isn't that so exciting?
I know. It's great. It was my challenge from last time.
Oh, yes. You say you have something to tell me earlier.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. It's perfect. Okay. So it's a joke. You ready?
Oh, sure.
Why are Sonya and Lucian good at solving problems?
Who?
Did you not do your research?
They're
champions.
It's a League of
Legends. They're champions.
No, they're champions.
See, this is why I'm going to be the new host. See? Perfect reason.
Okay, you know what? Just say the joke again, and then I'll answer.
So why are Sonya and Lucian good at solving problems?
Because, I don't know, they're mystery solvers.
Because they're the solution. Get it? You merge their names. Get it? Solution. It's okay. League of Legends puns? I've got a gazillion.
Oh, really? Don't tell me you have another one.
That was the one.
Thank
Zillion
God.
is a character.
Oh.
See? The cringy puns.
Oh, okay. So maybe we should just get into the show. Hi,
You're so dry.
everyone. Welcome to the podcast. As you can see, I'm joined by a guest host. Yes, this is our first guest host, Sabrina Gil. Everybody clap for her. Yay. On the next 6 episodes, Sabrina will be joining me on So I'm a Fan of's Animation Takeover, where each episode we discuss a new form of animation and talk about it. And then eventually on the last episode, we're going to rank our favorite animated things, because I can't think.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and rank the animated films that we watched, along with probably some of our more favorites that didn't make the list.
Exactly. All right, so are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so today we're talking about Arcane, a League of Legends story. I'm going to give the synopsis, and then I guess we'll talk about what Arcane is based off of. Okay. Amidst the escalating unrest between the rich utopian city of Piltover and its seedy, oppressed underbelly of Zon, sisters Vi and Jinx find themselves on opposing sides of a brewing conflict over clashing convictions and arcane technologies. That didn't make any sense to me. It does, because I watched the show, but that didn't make any sense.
It's funny because I'll say I'm no master of the show or League of Legends, but what I do know is that, ironically, there are a good bit of differences between the show and the game, but a lot of people hope that it's 100% canon, because obviously it's made by the same company that made the game, the show.
Really? Okay. What do you know about League of Legends, Sabrina?
So I honestly know nothing. I've seen a couple jokes here and there about, obviously, guys who play League of Legends are like red flags, like just as a joke, like just because it's such a time invested game that if he plays League, ain't gonna have time for you.
Okay.
But other than that, I know it's a battle royale style game with different maps and different characters that are set to those areas, and they each have a different class and a role that gives them like their abilities and how they participate in the round. And your idea is to take out the other team, or I guess a boss that may enter that arena by the end of it. But
so in other words, League of Legends is a video game.
yes, it is.
Yes, I know nothing about League of Legends at all.
The only reason I know so much is because I like it.
Okay, So, for this episode of the podcast, we decided to go through the first 3 episodes of the Arcane TV series, which you can find on Netflix. I'm going to read the synopsis, and then for each episode, we're going to discuss and break down what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then rank the episodes by how many champions out of 5. Okay, so let's get started. Episode 1, Welcome to the Playground. Orphan sisters Vi and Powder bring trouble to Zahn's underground streets in the wake of a heist in the posh Piltover. It's the names of the names of the locations for me that keep getting me stuck up.
No, I understand. Ironically, in the show, they never actually describe. So it's described as Piltover, which is the upper city, and then the Lanes, which is the underground. And so they never actually specify the name of Zahn, which is one of the main differences from the show and the game, like backstories, because obviously the game isn't like story based, it's just fighting. But in the lore, I guess is what it's called.
Oh, no, not complicated lore.
Yeah. That's like my favorite part of League.
In my notes on the first part where the first scene happens, I put that everybody's dead.
You're not wrong. It was the bout of a civil war between the upper and the lower. And it was basically that explaining the origin story of like all these kids who come together to make the plot of Arcane.
Yes.
So it was like
everybody's dead.
Not everybody. Our characters aren't dead.
Our main characters aren't dead. So you have Powder, Vi, and then
Milo, Clagger, and obviously they're like teacher Vander.
And Vander. All right. And when the episode starts after that, because they have this nice song. I forgot who sings it. I need to go search it up, but I was like, yeah. But so they're climbing up. I put there ugly boys, a pretty city. It's true. Not my ugly boys, I just mean Milo. I didn't like Milo. He just had an attitude. He was just too much.
You're not wrong. Okay, I hated him too, but
I didn't hate him. They're on a mission, okay? And they're climbing up on rooftops or whatever. And at one point they had to jump from one roof to the other roof. And Vi was just like, just don't look down and you'll be okay. But Powder, because she's the youngest and the smallest, she's scared to jump. But she eventually makes it while almost falling off the roof. But Milo is weirdly jealous of Powder. You notice that?
Yeah, because he's technically, I think it's implied he's in love with Vi.
Ew. That's his sister.
Well,
even though they're adopted.
I was about to say, they're not blood related, 1. And 2, he just also really looks up to her. So I'm sure if it's not obviously romantic love, it's that feeling of he wants to follow in her footsteps, but her attention is only on Powder. But they are on the way to this heist. One of the other children from the Lanes actually gives them a tip-off that there's a richer person in the upper that is going to have all these tools and whatnot that they could steal back after the kid already paid an arm and a leg for the supplies.
Yes. And so they go into the room, they steal, and then Powder finds these blue crystal shard things, right? And what happens is they get noticed because when they are stealing, they end up having to lock the door, and then Powder ends up dropping one of these crystals and it explodes. And they get noticed by the enforcers and they're chased all throughout the upper city and they have to escape. And eventually they do by sliding down through the trash.
Yeah, it's like a sewage system.
And they end up going back. They live in the slumps, okay? I call it the slumps. I don't know why I thought of this in my head. I said black people, they'd be saying black people live in the hood. White people live in the slumps, okay? While they're there, they go and they end up running into Deckard. And Deckard is like this guy who like runs the street or whatever. He think he run the street. He got beat up. He got beat up bad. And what I liked about this show though is like the violence. It was like these 3 and one of them was a girl against all these other guys, and they did not throw any punches. Even when Vi was getting punched, it showed her getting punched and stuff like that. And I thought that was pretty cool that they didn't hold back.
No, like the animation itself is already really grit, but like the fight scenes, like the action in it, make it like almost beautiful. It's like amazing.
Oh, that and when smoke comes or whatever, it's like they don't use like CGI. They use actually like 2D hand-drawn animation, it seems. And so like when you see like smoke and like little effects like that, it actually ends up looking, and it is like, it looks so good. It reminds me like a comic book in a lot of ways.
I think that's what it was meant to look like, because a lot of the lore too does come from like comics that they make from their characters. It'll be like for an event or whatnot, and they'll have like character little comics.
But anyways, they beat up the thugs, but then like one of them like runs after Powder. And she ends up using her little gadget thing called Mouser to end up distracting him. But it doesn't work. And Powder has all the stuff that they stole from the building. And so she threw the bag over to get away and then ran away. And Milo again is just like, when they get back, it's just like complaining. And blah, 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 blah. They go and hide in the back or whatever while Vander ends up running into these people trying to like make a deal in his bar. I forget what the bar's name is.
So it's called The Last Drop. And so they basically run to his bar because he's like their dad. And of course he's like, hide. And that's when the enforcers come. They're like the police. Mm-hmm. And we find out that they have a deal with the people of the lanes that you keep your people in your space, we keep our people in our space.
It's more of a deal between not the enforcers and the people on there. It's more of a deal between Vander and Grayson, who's the leader of the enforcers. Because she tries to help him as much as she can within the law, and eventually that like backfires. Not because of anything they do, but because
of those like kind of meddling.
Somebody's meddling, that's all we're gonna say. So anyway, so he ends up stopping the people that's trying to do like the negotiations with this guy named Huck. He's like this nerd man, and he goes in the back to talk to the kids, and he's so, tell me why I'm hearing rumors of an explosion and a chase going up in the upper lands. I don't know, I forget what they call it already.
It's technically referred to as like Piltover, and the land is separated as like that lower town.
I just keep forgetting it's called Piltover. I'm gonna keep, if I say the upper lands, just notice what I'm talking about. I'm saying Piltover. And so he's like, tell me why you're doing this or whatever. And he chews them out, and then they tell him where they got like the tips from. It was from the little man from Benzo's shop. And while I was watching this, I was like, who's the little man? Is it like some secret character? Because I couldn't remember. I was like, it's not who I think it is, but it was who I thought it was or whatever. But before that, he ends up having this conversation with Vi, and he's like, Vi, you're the leader. They look up to you. You don't have the opportunity to be like selfish. When you say do something, they're gonna do it, and that's gonna be all on you if somebody dies or if somebody gets hurt or something. And what she's doing, like stealing and just going up there doing missions like that, is not gonna solve any problems whatsoever. And Vander tells them to lay low while he and Clagger go to their mysterious informant from Benzo's shop. That's when Milo again is just like complaining, blah blah blah, Powder this, blah blah blah, Powder that, I hate Powder, blah 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 blah. And Powder is overhearing or whatever, and she thinks Vi agrees, but actually she's just telling Milo to shut up. She's like, you talk too much, you cannot keep your mouth shut. I'm like, I understand, sis, because there are people, they just talk. And you just be wondering, why are you talking so much? Shut up, because the stupidity happens when you just can't keep your mouth shut. But it is what it is. And then they go to Benzo's shop, and then that's where you see the little informant who's Echo. He's so cute. He reminds me of somebody's little brother. I'll just call him my little brother. These first 3 episodes at least. And while he and Clagger are outside, that's when enforcers come in. The enforcers come in, and Clagger goes and tries to hide so he doesn't get caught. And Echo ends up spying on the enforcers from like his little secret hideout thing. And Grayson comes in and tells them that she's the leader of the enforcers. She tells them that the council needs to make an example out of somebody, and they're just not gonna give up on this one because it happened at, I don't know, a rich person. It was like a fancy place.
It was like the upper, like we call it the upper, but like the very high class area. Like it was seen as a terrorist attack on like the rich.
And Grayson's like, they're not gonna give up, and if he doesn't give her anybody now, then a whole bunch of enforcers are just going to come over and do it later. And she gives him a device to use just in case he changes his mind. And later, Vi ends up talking to Powder, who feels like Powder just feels like really useless. She's like, I can't do anything. I'm too small. She doesn't feel useful. And Vi ends up taking her to the roof. And on the roof is this really sweet scene between the sisters where she's pointing out all the different mistakes that they made. I think it was Clamor getting stuck in this little thing when their forces were chasing after him, or her being bullied by the people underground and them throwing her a little toy like in between the wires or whatever, and she could never get it back. And she lets her know that they all make mistakes, and what's important is that they learn to stick together, which is it's a good lesson that she doesn't follow in the end. But and Powder ends up showing Vi like the little blue crystals that she found. I'm holding my hand up like, there they are. The little blue crystals that she found in the apartment, and because Vander asked Vi earlier, is there anything left or whatever? And she was like, no. But turns out Powder has this, and Vi's like, don't tell Vander, basically. Don't tell him. It's a secret between us. And Deckard, and then in the end of the episode, Deckard is being questioned by this mysterious gray man. His name is Silco. I say he's gray because of the lighting. He was like gray for a little bit. And apparently Deckard is working for Silco. And Silco has something, I guess he's trying to get revenge. And so he's using the kids as his little revenge plot. And he's having Deckard follow them. And they end up drugging a mouse. And then the mouse ends up turning big and killing the cat. It's like the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what'd you think about this episode, Sabrina? What'd you think about episode 1?
I thought it was very interesting. It's like a really good intro to these characters because, ironically, the way the episodes are set up, these first 3 episodes that we talk about are like the background of the characters that everybody knows.
Yeah, the origin story.
Yeah, so it was a nice introduction to the animation, and it started out very lighthearted with them running on the rooftops, and then obviously slowly took on that dark twist as the action and violence started. It gave a nice taste to what was to come in the entire show, in my opinion, across the different themes that we're probably going to be seeing. And I don't know, I like the variety in characters as well. Obviously, this takes a lot from the original source material. There's a large variety of champions and characters and styles. But this animation in particular, the style they chose, I think is really beautiful. And I don't know, I like the story of this Civil War torn area. It does feel a little, right now, small. Just because obviously we're talking about this one country, and I feel like there's not a lot of push and pull yet from the whole world. I feel like we're definitely in a little bit of a bottle, but that's not necessarily bad. It's the start.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing, because then if you like try to do like the whole world thing, it's gonna be less of a story and just more of like a lore dump. And
yeah,
it's like it'll be like Genshin. No offense, but it's true.
That's dirty.
Half the things that happen in Genshin aren't like even really story elements. They're just like, here's this character, they're in the world, and here's the lore dump of their past. And I'm like, this is why we need a single player video game. But it's neither here or there. I'm not going to insult your game too much. But yeah, I liked it. And I liked that this first episode, it only focused on the people in the underground first, because episode 2 and 3 ends up introducing characters like Caitlyn and Jace, who come in on the second episode, and introducing them. And episode 2 focuses more on that side, but then episode 3, like, and you still see what's going on underground, because Vi and Powder are the main characters, right? And it's still focusing on them in episode 2, but by that time you have all these other characters coming in, and that's when the world really opens up, and there are a whole bunch of players coming in.
Yeah. You said that Vi and Powder are like the main characters. I agree. However, I feel like it's like we have 2 stories going on at once. Like you said, I feel like this first episode introduces the first plot line, which is the lower, what the people who live underground and their lifestyle and their fight to survive. And I feel like episode 2 brings in the second plot line, which is going to be more Jace and the upper and Victor, these people who are part of this better world above the surface, and they're the reality of what it's like to live in the upper with corruption and trying to survive and honest. But I enjoy it.
I guess I can say they're more like point of view characters, because eventually when you get further in the show,
yeah, they all
merge. But at the same time, Powder will be, I don't want to, you know what, let's get into spoilers, because we're going to spoil like the first 3 episodes anyway. But Powder will be more, well, I'm not going to tell you how, but Powder will be more in Piltover, while Vi ends up more in the underground when the story goes on, when they get older.
I don't think so. I think it's the other.
No, because Powder ends up being taken in by a specific character.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to talk about this now. We'll wait until after we describe these episodes,
Okay.
because after episode 3, we can kind of start talking about that portion. Or we can talk about it after. Episode 2 is Some Mysteries Are Better Left Unsolved. And it goes as idealistic inventor, Jace attempts to harness magic through science. Despite his mentor's warnings, criminal kingpin Silco tests a powerful substance. The episode, like we said, instead of the perspective of what is like in the lanes with Powder and Vi, it instead focuses on the character Jace and his experience in the upper. And so we find out that the apartment that our little ragtag group basically stole from was his apartment.
Yeah.
And so when the explosion happened, he was the one who had twisted the doorknob to go into his apartment and almost caught them. The explosions happen, and him and his friend Caitlin were in the hallway, and they get jostled by the explosion. And he is the one left to answer the questions of the investigators and all that, like basically handle the consequences of the kids who stole from him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the midst of them searching his apartment for evidence to help him, they find all this illegal equipment that he was purchasing from the lanes. And you find out that he's basically trying to find magic, which in this world at this point, magic is gone. There was a giant war between the champions and what were like the original arcane magicians who caused calamity in this world. And we find out that when he was a kid, he was assisted by a magician and who gave him a crystal, and he made it his mission to try and refine magic to help save people.
Mm-hmm.
So for a good reason, but it's an illegal practice. It's deemed like old and dangerous. So of course they think that he might be collaborating with the thieves, and they lock him up in jail. They're like, yeah, no, like, you're supported by a rich family, but like, we have no proof to prove your credibility.
So they're called magicians. The magic users are called magicians?
I'm not 100% sure what they're called.
Okay.
They're, I think, described as arcane, hence the name of the show, magic users.
Okay, because I put voodoo priests, because I couldn't think of nothing to say. I said him and his mom got saved by a voodoo priest.
I want to call it a mage, but spoilers for the game, there are character types called mages, so it wouldn't really necessarily make sense to say full and well that they are referred to as mages. So I just called them magic users, old arcane magic users. Of course, he goes to go on trial, and his mentor of the time, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher this.
The professor.
Heimberger?
Heimerdinger.
Yes, Heimerdinger. I'm glad you can remember how that's pronounced. My little dyslexic brain was like... But he basically warns him against mentioning his research into magic and tells him that you shouldn't have looked into magic. And so obviously...
He's really against magic, too. He's like really against it.
Because he's actually 300 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He fought in that original war against those magicians. So he's very much anti-magic and science.
Yeah, I need to know what he saw. Because if you're that anti-magic and that pro-science, it's like there's no balance there. So something really had to like mess you up for you to just be all science.
It's because there has to be like a balance. And obviously, since it's like this... It's not new, obviously, because it was used in the past, but like new to them, it's very untested. And obviously, Jace was doing all this in his apartment.
Mm-hmm.
That's like me starting a meth lab in my house. Like, something's bound to go wrong.
I assume so.
Not that I would ever. I like
know,
all my G's.
You just said it.
I'm good. I don't got the time nor the money to invest like that.
Okay. If you say so, I'm not going to question you. Sabrina.
Please don't.
But eventually, we're going to focus on that side first, and then we'll go back to the sisters.
Yes. Yeah, because the episode does split it a little. Like, we get the back and forth of the kids obviously being in hideout and the enforcers, like, scouring the lanes, basically asserting aggression and starting that civil unrest of the people being unhappy that they're getting bullied. And when, obviously, the explosion was bad, but they're basically discriminating against all the people in the lanes. They're all a bunch of dirty criminals. They even wear these masks to protect their breath from the poor air quality. And it's definitely crazy. I don't know.
Not racist.
Classist. It's very much like a... What's that word? It's almost... I wouldn't say a caste system, but that concept of you're born in the slums, you're always going to be from the slums. And that actually brings in another character that we see in this episode that gets introduced, which is Victor.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Victor
Yeah.
is part of the investigation
Mhm.
team that's looking at Jace's apartment. And as he's exploring this apartment, he's intrigued by this mashup of magic and science. And Victor himself is not in the best health, so you can see why he might have some skin in the game
Mhm.
for this kind of research. And he actually, like I said, sorry, the connection, he is from the
Yep,
Lanes.
he's from
And he actually worked his way up to be the assistant of Heimendinger. And it was like really important for him to show that the class system isn't all it's made out to be. Like, you can rise from that. But he does also face the discrimination still of being from the Lanes.
Yeah, but that also makes me wonder, getting into his character a bit, what does he do to help the other people that are from the lane? What are you doing to help your
That comes in later on in the not only the show but in the lore. Like, this is one of those things that kind of differs from the game and the show. In the original, he and Jace didn't necessarily meet this way. They met by chance just to clash ideas in the sense of science and magic. And up until this point, Victor had actually done a lot of work to create safer working environments for people who did work in the lanes and in the upper. He basically created technology that allowed for safer work environments in factories and facilities. And so all his inventions were aided towards helping the working class.
Okay.
However, he did kind of turn to a more biomech style that was a little controversial due to it removed basically free will. Not to be like all mind control-y, but in a sense that if you were doing a task, you had to do your task to the perfect T. And it was like a suit that controlled your body. So it made sure 100% that you were safe, but it was controversial because it took away your own physical ability to move.
It's getting too much. Let's get back to the show, because now I'm side-eyeing Victor, because I was already side-eyeing Victor, not because I feel like he's a bad person, but I'm just looking at him like, but
sorry, back on topic. So obviously the investigation continues, and there's a council in the upper city, and they're tasked with obviously handling the terrorist attack and determining Jace's fate, because he's on scholarship at their renowned University of Piltover. And of course that it's basically a bunch of corrupt politicians. They're all got their own like motives, and as long as their like skin on their back is covered, they don't care. There's even one that goes so far as she gifts another, I guess, councilman a children's toy. Not to be like mean or malicious, but she's like trying to gain favor, and she's actually another lead character. I forget her name.
Her name is Mel. She gives him the child toy, saying that it was built by the sharpest of mind.
Yes.
I love her. To me, she's like a black Emma Frost. If you read X-Men, she's like a black Emma, like in a way. I guess it's probably because mostly she just like wears white and she's rich, but she has that kind of personality.
It's funny you say that, because she's actually from a very wealthy family, but at the same time, she's the outcast.
Wealthy. Yeah, she's the least wealthy out of them too.
Yeah, so she got ousted from her family, and so that's why she's like schmoozing up to all these people on the council.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, like I said, have their own motives, and a lot of them are also corrupt. She's schmoozing them. And of course, they meet Jace's case and put him on trial, and Jace is obviously advised to not mention magic. His mentor's like, do not. Just apologize, say you knew it was wrong.
But what does he do? Of course,
I did magic. He's like, does the very thing. It's a meme of the show that like every time Jace is told to do something,
he does the exact opposite. He does the exact. He don't like to be told what to do. Which
I get that. He, to an extent, it's like being honest to himself and to those who are around him. But it's you dumb man.
And so they're about to kick him out, not just out of the academy, about to kick him out of the city.
Piltover. Yes, they're about to send him to the lanes.
But his mom's like, wait, I'm his mother. Things are important. I have important things to say, even though I'm not of high class. My son is crazy. He's crazy. He's not in his right mind. Let him come home.
Yeah, she basically begs for him to be like forgiven, but obviously he loses his position at the university and his sponsorship from that rich family, who's Caitlin's family. And yeah, so he's expected to just go back and live with his family of tool makers, right? If I remember correctly, they're known for making their tools.
They make some. I don't know.
Like beautiful children, obviously, because Jace is definitely attractive. Anyway, simping. Sorry. So obviously they let him go, like they don't kick him out of the uppers, but he has to go back to living his life. And of course, Caitlyn is now no longer allowed to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like really close friends, and now she can't even speak to him.
What do you think about Jace and Caitlyn's relationship as friends? Because they don't really focus on it too much in these first 3 episodes. I don't remember how much they focus on it in the next episodes after this, but they established it. I wish they probably but they couldn't have focused. Like, they focused on it good enough, but I want to know, like, how did they meet each other? Like, how do they know each other? That's what I need to know.
I think it's implied that, at least in the show, that they were like childhood friends. Like, they met at an early age, and from there they were just close. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's ever implied that they have a romantic connotation to their relationship,
I don't think
which
so.
I like a lot. Yeah. I like the idea that guys and girls can be just friends.
They make a cute couple, but they don't have to be a cute couple.
Yeah. I'm biased because there's also like a second ship with Caitlyn and Vi, and I'm like...
Yeah. I like that they're platonic friends too.
She's obviously from this really rich family, but she herself just wants to be an enforcer. She wants to be like someone who, in a sense, helps the people, similar to how Jace was looking to help people through science and magic. But she herself wanted to do it with her own hands, being able to protect people and roaming the streets and assisting the public.
Yeah, I like that about Caitlyn, and they dive into that more.
Yeah. Her parents, though, don't want her to. They're like, I want you to sit behind a desk. But she's, no, I'm going to get my gun and I'm going to go through the streets, Mom. Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Yeah. This isn't America, okay? Calm down. Bad joke. Yeah. So Victor actually ends up reaching out to Jace with his arcane crystal confiscated, getting more and more violent. And the assistant to Grayson, I believe his name was Mason, starts basically trying to spearhead the investigation. And that's when he also gets a tip-off from Silco, who is basically trying to sabotage Vander because he wants to become the new leader of the Lane. I don't know that it's ever mentioned in the show, but Vander and Silco were actually originally who helped start the Civil War. They led the people in the lanes to go fight against the people in the upper. But obviously they lost, and there was a whole fight between the two, and resulting in Silco having that issue with his eye. The second episode basically ends with, it brings us back to that conversation that Vander had with Vi about how sometimes a leader has to do what needs to be done in order to protect those around them. And so Vi takes this as that she has to sacrifice herself to save Powder because the enforcers are getting more violent and it's looking like the turn of another civil war. So, of course, she takes the notification device that Grayson gave Vander, it goes to Benzo's shop, and sits there and waits for the enforcers to come and take her away. Now to episode 3.
Episode 3. The base violence necessary for change. I feel like I said it like in a way that I feel like it should be said differently. The base violence necessary for change. I don't know. Anyway. An epic showdown between old rivals results in a fateful moment for Zahn. Jace and Victor risk it all for their research. The episode starts with Silco being drowned by Vander. Like, he's just like being like choked to death. Like, he's losing like all control. He's bleeding. And he, like, when he's narrating like to himself, like his little monologue thing, like over the scene. And he ends up saying that Vander is his old friend. And that's how you know that him and Vander have a relationship. Because they don't really say that until this episode, right? They don't really allude to that till this episode. And when the last episode ends with people coming into the room where Vi is, and they have us assume it's enforcers, it was actually Vander. It's Vander and Benzo coming in to stop her because Vander is about to turn himself in instead. So Vi doesn't have to do that and have to live that hard life. So Grace comes in, and at first she refuses to take him because she's like, this place will not run without you. The lanes will not run. But he does so anyway, and she was like, okay, I'll take you. And when they go outside, it all turns to crap because that's when Silco comes, and then I'm assuming he kills Grayson. I feel like she's later in the show, though.
No, she's not. So basically, I think, if I remember correctly, he uses Deckard.
Deckard.
To kill all the enforcers there, including Grayson. So it's like basically this massacre.
I don't know why I remember Grayson being there longer. I don't know why I feel that way. But
it might flash back to her.
Might. He takes her out, and then Benzo's, he says something, but he taken out too. He like taken out in half or something. I don't remember. But he's dead. That's all you need to know.
If I remember correctly, basically there's a battle and Silco ends up taking Vander, and Vi, if I remember correctly, also gets taken. And so they're stuck at...
Vi doesn't get taken. Because Vi's still in the thing, and that's when
you're right, she was hiding.
She was hiding because he threw her in there. And she saw the blood splatter on the window. And that's when... It says Marcus, but his name isn't Marcus. Who's the kid?
His name is Echo.
Echo. Anyways, he ends up coming down and telling Vi everything that happened. And that he ended up seeing Benzo getting murdered or whatever. And she goes back home in order to get stuff ready and get her brothers together to go and save Benzo. Meanwhile, Jace and Victor begin working together like on a little project. And I find that Victor, compared to Jace, is like very calm. He's a bit more chill. Did you notice that?
Yeah, so Jace is definitely that very young passion and desire to obviously help people, but he's a little too emotional regarding the matter. He's a little also too impressionable, in my opinion. He just wishes so hard for his project to work, but as a result, he becomes a little naive, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's quite a bit naive. And Victor comes up with the idea to steal the research that they need to get from Heimdinger's lab, I have to think of his name, and steal back the crystals. And it ends up becoming both of their dreams. And while they're doing that, we go to Silco. And Silco, and he has Vander. And what Silco wants is basically to prevent Piltover from coming in the underground and taking them over for good. He sees this as like a war, right? And that's when we find out Vander's the one who drowned him. And Silco still has respect for Vander, but he realizes that Vander just isn't the same person that he used to be, because Vander used to be the type of person who goes out and fight. And everybody keeps asking Vander, why aren't we fighting? Why aren't we doing this? And he's just not that person anymore. He's not the person that wants to like push the violence anymore, because he realized during the war that they had years ago that so many people died, including Vi and Powder's parents, that was it even worth it? And Silco just doesn't agree. That's why he's making his little monstrosities. And he wants to go to Piltover, and he wants to stop them from good. Meanwhile, that's when Mel catches, like when they're back in Piltover, that's when Mel catches like Victor and Jace. She catches them trying to sneak into the professor's lab, and she's like, why should I let you do this? And they're like, we want to change the world. So you got one day. It's either this or you get arrested. So this better work. And they go in and steal Heimberger's stuff, and they work on their little projects, and it creates like an explosion type of thing. People notice. So at first it creates this explosion, but eventually they get it to work, and all of a sudden they're summoning magic with technology, and they're floating in the air. I wish I had telekinesis, because it's just so cool. You ever see all these shows where they're just like flying and stuff, and you just want to be anti-gravity too? You ever feel that way? That's just me. And they end up catching them, and the professor, comes in. He's stopped, and they break open the door, and then this is dangerous. You can't do this anymore. And then Mel comes in. That's for the council to decide. She sounds something like that.
Because it's a way that they can make profit. So the council doesn't really care if it's safe or not. They're just like, can we make money off it?
Rich people like rich things, right? Because it makes them rich. That's basically it for them, for the most part. They're making progress, and the council kind of comes into agreement with them eventually, right? But when it comes to Vi and the others, so Vi and her siblings go to try and save Vander, and Powder wants to help, but she tells Powder, no, stay here. You're the only one I have right now, and I don't want you to get hurt. And Powder ends up having an attack I don't know if she's like having a panic attack or
She's
anxiety
kind of
attack.
losing her mind.
Mhm.
She's always had this complex, as like we've seen for the
Mhm.
first 2 episodes, of feeling insignificant, like she's not able to help or contribute to her group. However, like I feel like this was like a real turning point where she thought she could help, and to be excluded drives her a little like crazy. Like she feels like, you could say, I guess it is like the beginning of a mental breakdown. It's like her panic attack moment.
She was really panicking. And so that's when they're going and leaving, that's when she discovers that the blue crystals are the things that ended up creating those explosions. And that poor little girl, because basically they go and save Vander. And they're actually successful in doing it. So it seems like they're going to lose, right? It seems like Powder is going to go and save them. It's going to be happy, fun times. So they end up sneaking in, and they actually fall in the trap because Silco left the window open for them to come through. And as soon as Vi says that, that's when it clicks that, oh no, this was a trap. But Silco comes out anyway. He's like clapping evilly. Yes, it's me, Silco, blah, blah, blah. And Vi ends up taking Vander's old gauntlets. And while Clamor and Milo are trying to help him escape, because there's this little storyline where Milo, I feel like the reason he really goes after Powder is because he feels insignificant too. And him going after Powder and complaining about her kind of makes him feel just a bit more useful. Even though he feels, because there are tons of situations where there are things that he's not good at that Powder just is better at him in, like shooting. Because when they were in episode 2, when they were in hiding or whatever, he and Powder were like playing the shooting range game, and he missed every single target, but Powder easily just got every single target, and he was just quite upset. And I feel like compared to Powder, he feels useless. So he's like, even this little kid is better than me at stuff. So how is he gonna do it? He's gonna bring her down, right? And so he's panicking because he needs to get Vander out. And earlier in the first episode, he's trying to like open the door when they're trying to get into the apartment, but he couldn't do it. And so he's faced with this challenge again, trying to get Vander out. And he's successful in doing it, actually. And he and Clamor are successful. And it ends up being Vi fighting like all of Silco's followers. And she ends up beating all of them until what's his name? The guy from the streets ends up taking the drug or whatever. Deckard. And so Deckard ends up taking the drug, and he ends up knocking Vi out. But she's able to escape and quickly close the door. And that's when everything turns to crap, because they all are successful in getting Vander out. But that's when Powder comes. And thinking that they won't be able to escape, she uses her little, I think it's like a monkey thing with the
her little toy.
And it's like this monkey with symbols, and so she sends it in, and as soon as it hits the blue thing, everything explodes, and then just about everybody dies besides Vander, Silco, Vi, and Deckard, because Deckard's still like a monster. And so everybody's dead, even Milo and Clamor. Milo gets struck in the right here, like something pierces him, and when he's trying to take it out, he looks up and something falls on him and Clamor, and they're just dead on impact. And I was so sad, because I didn't like Milo like that, but to have him die like that, he's just a kid. And I think that's really just showing like the like how the situation is just very major, right? And so it's only Vi and
Vander.
And let me tell you, it's sad because Vander ends up like fighting because Vi is about to be taken out, and stuff collapsed on her too, so she can't move. And so Vander ends up fighting a monster, and eventually he ends up taking the drug eventually, right? And he becomes a monster too. And when they try to get Vi, he ends up in his monster form taking out Deckard and saving Vi. And he ends up dying, because I don't think he's dead. I don't really think he's dead. But he ends up dying, and Vi ends up like crying over his like corpse. He ain't dead. I don't think he's dead. I do not think
Silco stab him in the back?
He does.
Like right after he wins the victory, and that's when he stabs him in the back. And
no, because he has the victory. Silco stabs him in the back, and after that's when he takes the drug.
Oh, okay.
And that's what he dies from, because I guess it's from the adrenaline, like the adrenaline rush, that he was able to like that the drug is him, that he was able to take him out, and then that's when he dies, because he dies from the stab wound later on.
Do you want me to tell you if you're right or not?
I know I'm right. I know he's alive. He has to be alive. Don't tell me. Like, I'll wait. But
because it's not 100% confirmed, but there's a theory.
I think he's
stuff
alive.
shown in the show.
Yeah, I think, because the thing is, I don't know about the games, but I feel like the show takes liberties or whatever. I know nothing about those video games, about the League of Legends games. So I don't know if he's alive in there, if he's not, if he like appears or if he doesn't. But I feel like in the show, he's still alive. But anyway, Powder ends up being like, "Fine, look what I did. Yay, I saved you." And then you look in the room and everybody's dead. And you did this? She's like, why am I laughing? Why'd you do this? And so she ends up punching Powder. And she's like, why'd you do this or whatever? And Powder is just like screaming and yelling because she just realizes what she did. She killed her family. And not on purpose, the poor child, obviously. And Vi ends up just walking away. And Powder is just like screaming and crying because Vi is the only one she has left. And she's like, don't leave me. Don't leave me. And it's so sad, and Powder and Vi ends up like hiding or whatever. And that's when Silco comes in and finds Powder, and he's asking her what's going on, whatever, and asking her about Vi. And she's just like, she's not my sister anymore. And she cries in Silco's arms. And when Vi sees Silco trying to talk to her, she tries to run to her sister, but that's when Marcus comes and takes Vi away, and the sisters are separated. So that's basically the end of episode 3. The sisters end up being separated.
And this is also the last point where they're like children. The time skip happens as of episode 4.
Yeah, like children, because I think like Powder and them are like teenagers, and then Vi is like an adult. But that's the last point of like pre-teenhood, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, true like childhood versus like young adulthood.
Yeah. It's like the difference between happiness and angst. That's what we're trying to say.
Yes.
And that was episode 3. And that's what we have with Arcane. What do you feel about these first 3 episodes as a whole? How do you feel they did?
I think they did fairly well. It was a very good setup to what will happen in the rest of the season, at least in my opinion. I felt it was really good. We got everybody's perspective. I don't feel like there was really anyone left out that wasn't at least touched that would appear later on. I like really enjoyed the show. There's like a reason why it was on the top 10s for such a long time upon its release.
Who's your favorite character so far?
That's really hard. Because part of me is, as of right now, like within the first 3 episodes, obviously the fan favorite is like Vi. Because like she's just such a strong character and she has such a strong moral compass to wanting to do what's right and protect her family. But another part of me also enjoys the potential of Jace, just because I like his, obviously I've mentioned he's handsome, sucker for a pretty face, but at the same time I admire his thirst for knowledge. However, I don't like necessarily how malleable he is right now. He's very much vulnerable to whoever will help him. He's gonna
very youthful. That's what we'll say. He's youthful, and especially young men can sometimes be stupid. But yeah, my favorite, I don't know if it's because she's black or because seeing her, like her role later in the show is Mel, because
I thought we were only saying within the first 3 episodes.
She is in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, but what role does she really play in the first 3 episodes?
She's black. She wears a gorgeous outfit.
Okay. I can't judge you. It's teasing.
She's like British. So like that's the third. Ding ding ding. She just reminds me a lot of Emma Frost from X-Men. And Emma Frost is one of my favorite characters. And so I guess it's just like that coming into my head.
The bias.
Just like, yeah, I'm biased. But besides her, if we're talking about characters that we're focused on, I guess it'd be Powder, because I feel sorry for her. I really do feel sorry for her, and I can see where she's coming from, like feeling useless. Her, and seeing like how her and Milo relate to each other too, even though they argue a lot. How the similarities between those characters, and how that probably will mess her up for the trauma is just there probably for the rest of her life. It's just really sad. And I like Vi too. I like Vi, but I feel out of her and Powder is my favorite because I feel like Vi is more of your not average main character, but she has the main character energy. And who I'm not the type of person who usually is just like the person who the main character is my favorite.
Yeah,
I
feel that.
Never really that for me. It's usually the characters that are like that sneak in and just take over the show. You know.
Yeah. If we're talking about the series as a whole, my favorite is probably definitely Victor or Caitlin.
I feel like Jason had like a thing going on. Like
there's like a part of the fandom, but that's also because everybody's oh my gosh, Vi and Caitlin, and then Victor and Jace.
It's not true, because I do like the relationship that Jace gets in later. We're not gonna say who, but I do. I guess it's probably like the intellectual attraction.
I don't know. I don't really actually care for that relationship. I feel like it's a little manipulative.
It is. I'm just
why I
saying
don't
they
think I
look
like
good. They look good. Wait, which relationship? Which relationship?
I thought you didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, so that one. Okay, yeah. No, it is manipulative, but they're cute. They're cute together.
I don't care how cute somebody is. Mm-mm.
Both of them are manipulating each other. Let me be honest.
You're right.
Because that doesn't make it better, but they're cute. Like, it's Emma Frost, Scott Summers. We love to see it. That's another one of my favorite X-Men relationships. And so I see it in those two. And that's a lot of I'm an X-Men fan. It is what it is. We decided we're going to rank the episodes. Let's just do the whole show so far. How many challengers out of 5 would you rank the first 3 episodes of Arcane?
I would have to give it maybe a 4 out of 5. 4.5 out of 5 champions.
Why?
Because I think the show is very strong. I love the animation. I love the setting. And I enjoy so far the character development. I enjoy the setup. However, where it loses a little for me is that I feel like sometimes things get a little, I wouldn't say complicated, but it gets a little too everywhere. Like there's a lot going on at once, which isn't always bad, but sometimes, especially like in the apartment scene where it's jumping between Powder and them and then what's going on behind the door, it gets a little much for me. Or like, I don't know. There are a little, like you said, stereotypical main character syndrome. But
that's a show thing in general. It's almost every show. So
other than that, it's like minute things. It's like me being nitpicky of not wanting to be like, oh yeah, it's 5 out of 5.
But see, that's a good thing about the show. You have to be nitpicky. You have to be nitpicky because it's just that good. I would give it a 4 out of 5 too. Like the first 3 episodes. I understand what you're saying. It comes like everywhere and like everything sometimes.
I feel like it's also a lot is just not explained, which I guess that's the point. It's the point that we're supposed to find out more as things go on. But especially in Silco's portions, where with his lab and they're experimenting and stuff, it's a little too vague for me.
Well, it is what it is, because I feel like Silco that's the point. He has to, like, you have to have a mystery behind him too. Like in the first, because in the first 2 episodes, you don't know anything that goes on with him. But by the 3rd episode, you start getting like the history or whatever. And I feel like the story is trying to tell a story, but it's not trying to. They don't feel like they need to tell the Silco and Varanda's story to really just, because it's not as important, honestly. It's the past. You learn more about it, but it's just the most important thing between that is the relationship between those two and how it defines the characters now. You know what I mean? Because I think about like Batman or whatever. Batman's parents got shot, okay? That's what makes him become Batman. I don't need to know Bruce Wayne's everyday life of what happened before his mom and daddy got shot up in the stomach, shot up in the chest, and died. I don't need to know all that. I just need to know that his parents died, and he's Batman. But I'll give it a 4 out of 5 because I do feel like they handled it. Like, because the first 3 episodes are basically used as setup, they did it in a way that doesn't feel like setup. They did it in a way that actually made the story compelling. And it's not just like, we're telling you this so you can know how to get into like the meat of the story or whatever. This does feel like, in its own way, its own like meat of the story. It feels like a movie. It feels like a really good movie that you can watch. And it makes you want more, but you're not watching it to just get to the other side. Because when I watched the show, I wasn't watching it like League of Legends. I'm like, oh, my favorite character is OMG. I can't wait to see when this character comes. I don't know none of these people. I don't know who you are. So when I'm watching this part and then I'm getting to know you and then seeing you later on in the show, like it makes it that much better. They did a good job of taking the story and the lore from the video game and actually making a standalone show. And I feel like this show and Castlevania are like the best video game adaptations like out there, because they actually, you don't have to play the video games to watch these shows, which is a good thing. Yeah,
I agree.
And that's Arcane, you guys. I feel like you guys need to watch it. Obviously, that's what we're talking about in these first 3 episodes. And it's super fun. Like, it's great. I think we should go to the next segment now.
Greetings. I am Professor S. Yes, I will be teaching you a variety of fun things through games at the end of everything in this animation takeover series. Yes, I look like a Pokemon villain, however, I am just living my best life. I do not have an education degree, nor am I a master at any of the things we may talk about in this series. Anyway, here we go. This segment is called Keeping It Classy with Professor S. We have young little Timmy here who's going to answer a variety of questions, basically guessing the class of the various League of Legends champions that I have within this PowerPoint.
League of what?
League of Legends.
I didn't sign up for this. What is
that?
Man,
too bad. Anyway, like any good professor would, on to question 1. Vi. Can you guess what class she is?
What are the classes?
Okay, so the classes are easy. They are separated into 6 or 7 categories. It's controller.
Or 7.
Yes, we'll get there. I'll explain. So there's 6 identified classes and then 1 unidentified class. So you have controller, which are going to be like your enchanters and your catchers. Then you have fighters, which are like your juggernauts and your drivers. Then you have mages, who do burst, battle mage, and artillery. And then, of course, marksmen, slayers, and tanks. And then again, the 7th, which is specialist, also known as unidentified.
She is the second one.
The second one? The fighter?
Fighter. She's a fighter.
Oh, you're right. Good job.
I know.
Point 1.
It's the gun.
Also, I would just like to mention, if you fail this test, don't forget that there is indeed a punishment round. Yes, of course. Upon agreement earlier at a later date, Kaiser, the host of this show, had agreed that we will play a game. If I lose by you passing this test, I will have to play League of Legends, which I have never played before in my life. And if in turn, I win by you failing this test, he has to play Genshin Impact on his own and complete a whole single quest.
Okay,
now,
well, I'll just win. Next.
If you say so. Now, leading on to the second question, Jinx.
Jinx. I think Jinx is she's a mage.
Wrong. This was actually hinted in the show, which was a fun teaser. She is a marksman. Hence, when she fights with Milo in the game of shooting at the arcade, she wins.
I knew that. I was just testing you. I was testing you with this test.
Question 3. Jace Talus.
Oh. Okay, Jace, I see you. Jace.
Future husband. I mean... Answer.
Jace is a tank, because he has a large hammer.
Actually, that's wrong.
What?
He is actually a fighter and a marksman.
That's a lie.
It is not a lie. It is not shown yet in the show, but it's estimated that in Season 2 he will get his signature weapon, which is the hammer filled with hex magic, which allows him to shoot enemies at range and along with physical hand-to-hand combat with the hammer.
That's some nerd crap. I don't care. Anyways, let's see.
Question 4. Caitlyn? Can't say her last name.
Kiraman?
Yeah.
She is a marksman because she has a gun and a hat. She looks like somebody who does magic.
Ding ding!
What is up with your outfit? Yes. I'm right.
So you are 2 and 2. Question 4. Or 5. Can't count. I'm dyslexic. Anyway, that's gonna be Victor.
Victor, he's something.
He definitely looks different in game, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Victor, you a mage, Victor?
You are correct. The uncertainty in your voice brings me joy.
Oh.
Okay, question 6. Echo.
Echo. Oh, that's my little brother. Echo, look.
I thought you were little Timmy.
I mean, yeah, that's Timmy. That's my cousin. That's my cousin. See, he's a something because he has blonde hair and he has a sword. Is he a fighter?
It's debated. He's technically a slayer.
He's a fighter. I knew it up right. Do I get half a point? What do I get?
Well, he's an assassin, so I believe he is a slayer.
Oh.
So we'll count that as a half point.
I'm on community line.
So you're at 3.5 to 2. We're at now Heimerdinger.
Why? Why is
Which is
why
question
is he
7.
He's a he's a controller.
Wrong. He's a specialist.
A specialist. He's a specialist in what? Technology?
Well, so since he's so old, it's actually questionable as to his true ability. He's considered, I guess, OP, or does not fit into the following categories. So I should not say OP, because I guess it doesn't technically count. Anyway, next question. Question 8 is going to be Lux.
Who is this? Who's Lux?
So these characters have exited the realm of the show, Arcane. So I picked some of the most popular within the actual gameplay.
Oh, she looks like she a mage. She got a staff, and there's light behind her.
That is correct.
Oh, see, blonde, and she blonde and white, so of course.
Okay, number 9, we are at Misfortune.
Uh-oh. Is she a marksman? She a pirate? She got those guns? I know the truth.
All right, and then final question, my favorite, is Briar.
Uh-oh. Briar is a mage.
You're wrong.
Huh? You said I'm wrong?
She's a fighter.
That's a lie. What's she fighting with? Her feet?
No, so actually, that ring around her back actually splits in half, and she gets what's called bloodlust, which sends her into a frenzy, allowing her to devour her enemies, and in turn, consume their health.
What does that mean?
She's basically a vampire demon.
Or what?
A vampire demon. When she unlinks her cuffs, it allows her to go into a manic frenzy and fight.
Seems nobody who comes up with this stuff. You know what? Okay.
You
Did I
talk to
win
the
or did I
company.
lose?
Technically, you have won. You have passed your test. However, upon the grading scale of Louisiana, you did receive an F. But that's okay.
Louisiana is not known for its academic achievements, so I don't care.
It's okay.
I just
Mississippi
won.
keeps us from being the lowest in the nation.
Yay! Little Teddy won!
Now, join us next time for our next segment with Professor S. Allow me to quiz you, play you, and then, of course, Sabrina will sadly be forced to play League of Legends. Aww.
Yay!
Wow, I knew little Timmy would win. I taught him well.
I don't know about that. He seemed to be struggling a little bit.
What do you mean?
He didn't even know the classes before coming into his test. He was very unprepared. Had he not had an additional resource, he probably wouldn't have won.
Sabrina, are you for the people or are you against the people? That's what I need to know.
I'm definitely for the people, but I'm also here for educator rights. Thanks for joining us on the So I'm a Fan of Animation Takeover.
Be sure to leave a comment and 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll shout out your comment.
Also, follow us on our socials at IAFO Fans on Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit.
Next episode, we'll be discussing Castlevania and all their attractive vampires.
Until then, we'll say,
You've got a good heart. Don't ever lose it. No matter how the world tries to break you, protect the family. That's a quote from Arcane, not Fast and the Furious. Bye.
Bye.